This video is going to be about why I use a third-party tool like SendGrid or Mailgun to deliver mail. It's important that when someone fills out a form on a WordPress website that the email is actually not just sent, but it is delivered. And I'll try to explain what's happening if you're not using a third-party tool here. I did a talk in the Netherlands for WordCamp Netherlands a couple years ago, and I'm going to use some of these slides here from that time. Let's see. Let's start here. Let's say when you go to a website and you fill out a contact form, you will basically be putting in your name, your email address, your subject, and hit submit. And what happens in the background? Well, what happens in the background is basically it uses this WP mail function right here to send mail. And so uh, one thing that's pretty interesting about this is the source code of the WP underscore mail function. And I like this comment right here. It says on line 415, and that line number might be different now, but basically this is a screenshot from a couple years ago. And it says set to use PHP's mail function. Okay, that's kind of interesting. So all it does is when you fill out that form, if you're not using a third-party plugin to intercept this function, it just drops to use whatever PHP is set up to use. And PHP is the programming language that WordPress runs on. So if you look at that, what is the mail? So again, line 415 says use PHP's mail function. So if you look at that, it is basically you put your message in and then you use this mail function, which is the exact same syntax as what you would be doing if you were to SSH or log in using command line into the server and send a mail. So let me just show you this animated GIF that I have here. And it's GIF, not GIF. I'm just old and know how to pronounce that correctly because I'm a computer geek. Anyway, um, this animated GIF here is basically I'm SSHing in and then I'm running this mail function, and that's what PHP is talking about in the code, which also WordPress uses. And it's a command line tool that you can do on a web server if mail is installed. I personally don't install mail on my web servers because they are web servers, not mail servers, and I think there should be a separation between the two. But in this, basically, you're going in, you're typing in mail, and then -s for the subject, and then the email address of where you want it to go. Then you put the body in there, then you hit Control D to send, and it's sent. And what is it doing? Well, it's sending the mail, and it's going to look like spam. Why? Well, even though, let's say that was a form that was filled out, that was just a test, so kind of ignore the domain there. But let's just say it was on Clockwork WP on my website. If I were to fill that out, it would drop into PHP when you hit the submit button. It drops into PHP. I'm kind of simplifying here, but drops into PHP's mail function, which uses just a send SMTP command line thing, and it's coming directly from your web server. It's not coming from, like for me, Clockwork WP, it's not coming from my domain. It's coming from a server that is not an email server, so it doesn't have mail exchange records or MX records that are associated with it, and in this case it's using A2S37, so I'm assuming that's A2 web hosting server number 37, and Google does not like that, and so it flags it as spam. because it's not validated. It's not set up to receive mail. And so if you look at that server, A2 server 37, there's no DMARC, no DNS records, things like that. I could, to get this to work, I could go in and edit my DNS and drop in that weird server number, A2S37, blah, 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 drop it in to my TXT records for my SPF records. But the problem with that is I might change those servers. I might the I mean, and the hosting company might move it to a different server, without my control. So you don't want to always be dependent on keeping that up to date. And so what my solution is to use a third party service. And a lot of hosting companies too, if you look at like SendGrid, if you look at WP Engine, they will allow email to be sent from their web server. The problem is that it says it's limited, and right here it says it's limited, and they won't even tell you how many they're going to allow you to send. So let's say you have a big advertisement going on, lots of people are going to your website, and let's say 1,000 people fill out these forms, and then boom, WP Engine is going to stop sending those. So that's a problem. And they recommend, just like I do, is they recommend services like Mailgun, Gmail, or Sendinblue. I guess they used to just say Mailgun and SendGrid, but there are lots of different services. But let me explain and show how this works. Basically, you would go, let's say you wanted to set this up, you would go to SendGrid, set up an account, and then you need to use a third-party plugin to do that. And I will show you. I use a plugin. This plugin here, is that even readable? I hope that's readable there. This WP Mail SMTP by WP Forms is the most popular one, and it says it's an email login, but if you actually want, I feel like that's false advertising, and if you actually want the email log functionality, you have to pay for it. So I feel that's like false advertising, and I recommend using post SMTP mail, or it doesn't have as many people using it, but it's still a great plugin, and let me explain why. Basically, you can set it up where it will send mail using SMTP. So if you just have a POP3 account you want to use, and you could send mail through SMTP, or you could use your Gmail account or SendGrid or Mailgun. And once one of the cool things about this plugin is it not only allows you to use those services, you can set up a fallback. So let's say email is critical to your company, receiving forms off of the website is critical. You would want to set up a fallback. So if all of a sudden, for some reason, SendGrid stops working, you can set it up to use a second service to do that, which is pretty awesome. Another feature that it has is you can set it up where you get Slack notifications. So if for some reason the email stops working and then the fallback fails, you'll get a notification within Slack saying, "Hey, something didn't work." So it's really three fallbacks, or a couple fallbacks, and then it also has a logging feature just built in, and this plugin is absolutely free. Sure, you could use a Mailgun plugin by Mailgun, uh, or use the SendGrid plugin here, but they're not going to have the logging. It's not going to have the Slack notifications. It's not going to have the fallback. And one of the things that's really cool too about the logging, if for some reason things start failing on you, you'll have a nice log of that, and then you can just go back and hit the resend button, and the emails will send once you've figured out what the problem is. So to me, SendGrid, Mailgun, services like that are critical, and the price is really, really low. So if you look at pricing here, you can set this up where, let's see, so start for free, one teammate, you get API and SMTP emails, and I think the delivery is something like, let me see. They don't tell you how many you get to send on the free account. Oh, there it is. I'm just blind. So basically, for $0 a month, you could send up to 100 emails a day. I don't know about you guys, but I don't know of many websites that would get. I mean, sure, I know there's probably. I'm sure Amazon gets hundreds of thousands of forms filled out every day, but your average marketing website that has a contact us form or something, 100 emails a day is should cover the vast majority of services, or companies out there, and it's just kind of whatever you want to use. You could use SendGrid, you can use Mailgun. Let's look at Mailgun pricing. So, okay, so they have a free $0 a month, 1 day retention, send up to 5,000 emails to 5 users of your choice. So basically, the free version of that also will cover what your average normal marketing site handles. So that's pretty much it. I just get clients every once in a while will say, "Hey, the contact form isn't working," and I say, "Well, what are you using?" And they'll say, "We aren't using anything." I mean, not if they're on our platform, like with our hosting. We'll always make sure we have SendGrid set up, because I don't even install the mail server at all on our web servers, because 98% of the time when a site gets hacked, all they are trying to do is turn that web server into a email routing server. So I just don't even allow them to I don't install mail on there. So if they were to hack it and try to figure out a way to send mail, there's no mail function. Obviously, they'd have to have root access to the server to get it where SMTP is installed, which I'm sure is probably possible, but I just don't install it in there because there's no need for it. So that's, I think, pretty much it. So hit me up if you have questions in the comments. Thanks.